All right, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders. It's great to have Arbany Gabriel here, Miss Universe. Welcome.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Great to have you here. Well, I'd love to just be able to start with your own background. So, did you always want to be Miss Universe? Was that something you dreamed of as a child? Was that like a big passion of yours since a kid, or how did that all start?
Honestly, it didn't start until later on in my life, about 3 years ago now, when I was age 25. I was already modeling and designing, doing fashion design. I lived in Houston, so I was doing modeling around there. And I was really pushing my design career, and I was making all of my clothing for my design brand. And I was so passionate about sustainability and upcycling and reusing materials. But I was always thinking, like, when am I going to get my big break? Like, I have been hustling for a while. Just to give you perspective, I started sewing when I was 15 and was super
Wow.
passionate and just started designing clothes and making things all the time. So, fast forward to age 25, I'm in the fashion industry in Houston doing what I can, but I feel like I needed more of a direction. And the Miss Universe journey kind of organically fell in my lap. So, I was at a photo shoot doing some hair modeling, and the stylist that was doing my hair, she just started going on a tangent about pageants. She was like, I think you would do really well in pageants. She's like, she saw me reading a book at the photo shoot, and she just thought I was so intelligent for reading this book. It's so different. So she was like, you should do it. You should try Miss Texas. And I was very uninterested at the time because I was like, I don't have time for that. I'm really focused on building my design brand and really trying to figure out how to get it off the ground. But I started seeing this hairstylist at other photo shoots. So we started crossing paths a lot. We started working together and becoming friends. And she would always bring up the pageant thing. So honestly, it took about a year for her to really convince me to give it a try. And actually, it was during COVID when I had a little bit more downtime, and I was like, you know what? I think this woman is onto something, and I think you should always give something in life a try once. And
Hmm.
since I felt like I had more free time because of the pandemic and the lockdown, I decided to give it a try. So actually, my first pageant was during COVID. We had masks on and everything.
Wow. Wow. That's quite an event having the mask on. It was just, was it still enjoyable? Was it a good experience during COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but the reason why I started pageants, after this woman really presented the idea to me, I
Hmm.
started researching what Miss Universes do, what the past girls have done. And I was so impressed by the way they could speak publicly. I mean, they
Yeah.
were beautiful. They did modeling, but they also advocated for causes that were personal
Hmm.
to them. So I saw it as this beautiful marriage of modeling and advocacy and being able to speak and be a empowered woman, all of these amazing things. And I wanted to become a better speaker. I really
Hmm.
wanted to push sustainability on a larger platform. So that's when I was like, you know what? I think this is really cool. And I dove in, I did my first pageant, and then I learned a lot of how there was so much training that's involved. I had no idea. It was way more intense than anything I ever
It
imagined.
seems like it.
Yes, and I loved the challenge. After my first pageant,
Mhm.
I got first runner up, which is
Yeah.
basically second place. And I was so close to winning that I wanted to do it again. And I loved how I was being challenged to be able to communicate better and really improve my interview skills. So that's kind of how I got started.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense that it was just a progression, but the fact is you took a shot at something that someone was kind of hinting towards you to do, and you were
Yeah.
open-minded. I mean, that's such an important step of really trying to get success and be successful. Is just actually being open-minded. Like you never know when opportunities may arise, and it seems like you were really open to that, and now look where you are. It's definitely impressive to be at that point to take a shot like that. So kudos to you. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I love how you say open-minded because I think a lot of us have these goals and we see maybe one path to get there.
Hmm.
And for me, I never saw Miss Universe as a path for me to really catapult my modeling and design brand. But actually, once I really opened my mind, I said, this is a big stepping stone. I mean, my life has changed forever after I won Miss Universe. And thankful I was open-minded to really taking a different path towards the success that I wanted.
Yeah, and you mentioned your life changed a lot after. Like, what were some of the biggest changes that occurred like that right after, like, I mean, of course, publicity wise, like you were able to really spread your message about having a sustainable clothing and things like that.
Mhm.
But what was the biggest thing overall that was a difference in your life?
Oh, wow, so many things. It really happened overnight after I won Miss Universe. I moved out the next day, like straight from the competition to New York with the suitcases that I had from the competition. So, very next day I was on a flight and they had
Wow.
the apartment for me. So, um, where do I even begin? Obviously, the publicity was huge
Mhm.
for my career and being thrown into challenges and interviews and taking on the role of speaking for different charities. But I'm able to sit at the table with people that I've dreamed about or
Yeah.
work with designers or even publications and magazines that I grew up following. For example, Vogue Philippines. I mean, I grew up
Mhm.
looking at the pages of Vogue and to actually be in contact with them and have different publications and interviews with them is just I've dreamed of even being in a circle of people like
Yeah.
that. So, I grew up watching a lot of interviews of successful people, wondering when I would be able to cross paths with people like that. So now living in New York, I mean, I'm meeting people left and right, and
Mhm.
people will listen to what I have to say because Miss Universe opens up conversation and a lot of doors. So I mean, it's changed so much. Before I won Miss Universe, I was working at a nonprofit design house
Mhm.
and I was making an hourly wage. So, I mean, I still love the design house, but in Houston, but I mean, financially as well, it's opened
Mhm.
up a lot of opportunity for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely sure it has, and that it's awesome you're taking advantage of it and really trying to spread a positive message and do something good with with the platform that you have now. I think like there's a lot that it's really innovative about like your clothing brand and the designs that you're doing that I'm not sure people fully know. Like, one of the outfits you did, you took a lot of plastic bottles and used those to make the outfit. I mean, what went into even doing something like that, and how do you channel this type of design and originality into the clothing that you make now and do these limited releases of?
Well, for that specific piece you're talking about, that was the swimsuit cape. And for the viewers, basically all of us contestants at Miss Universe, we do part of the competition is we walk on a swimsuit with a cape of a message that we want. And I took it as an opportunity for me to showcase my designs and talents. And I felt like that was kind of my secret weapon in the competition was being able to make my own pieces and
Totally.
talk about it and then incorporate recycled fabrics or materials. So I collected plastic bottles that I had used or my friends used, and then I
Mhm.
burned them and molded them into a shape and put it on my cape. So that was one way for me to really spread my message of, using
Yeah.
a recycled material that we think is trash and turning it into art or finding a function for it. So I think that really helped me tell my story in the
Mhm.
competition and stand out in a sea of so many accomplished and beautiful women. But now when I make my designs as well, as you were saying, they're all limited pieces because the design process for me is still very personal. I go to thrift stores, vintage stores, and I find pieces and I'll rip them apart and make them into new pieces. So they're kind
Mhm.
of one of one, or I can kind of use that same template on a small limited run. But for me, that's how I can really showcase how you can take a piece that you think is trash and make it into something new again, and then whoever ends up wearing it or buys it really connects with it, and it
Yeah.
makes it feel very special and unique.
It definitely does make it special and unique. Like you're one of probably the only people doing this at and making these types of original pieces. I haven't seen too much of that, especially even in the fashion space. All this stuff is really done at scale, and it's in factories and it's standardized materials. So it's quite a unique approach. And also, a lot of these releases now are very limited releases. And like for you doing a limited release because it actually is like there's limited fabrics that you have, there's limited materials that you have, and they're sourced so organically. I think it's just an innovative angle that is quite new and it could be quite disruptive as well. So definitely very interesting.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. And now I'm really trying to figure out how to scale that because right now
Hmm.
it's like small limited runs. But for example, I'm really into blazers lately. Just went to a
Hmm.
thrift store yesterday, picked up a lot of blazers, and I'm going to upcycle them. And I'm trying to scale that. So it's like, let's say I take 30 blazers and kind of upcycle them in the same way so I can really grow my business, especially after Miss Universe.
Yeah, makes sense. You do want to be able to scale it.
Yeah.
So let's just, for example, take like the rework collection, right? So with
hmm
that collection, where did you find the materials for it, and where did the inspiration for your idea come? I mean, it was kind of jean-like materials and a really
hmm
unique take on certain items that wouldn't have been jean-like material anyways in the beginning. So where did that kind of come from? It was a unique idea.
So that was definitely my pandemic collection. I had a lot of time on my hands, luckily, and I love denim. I think everybody has a story with denim, whether it's their favorite pair
Mhm.
of pants they've had forever or favorite jean jacket. I feel like it really embraces America and the Americana fashion. So denim, I actually had a thrift store back in Houston. They sold big denim pants for 25 cents a pair. So I ended up
Wow.
buying a bunch and only spending like a small amount of money and then ripped up that denim and kind of I loved how denim has different shades. There's light
Mhm.
blues, there's dark blues, and it's super easy to work with. So I kind of wanted to incorporate the different shades into like a patchwork technique. I love quilting, but I kind of wanted it to look a little bit different than quilting that we've seen before. So I kind of made up this patchwork technique that I invented. And I love dresses. I love women's wear. I did a little bit
Mhm.
of men's wear too, but I did my own like jean jacket reinvented with this quilted patchwork technique, also a dress as well. But it was all about really focusing on the textile and mashing together different denims.
Yeah. And so how long did it take you from start to finish? Like you're sourcing these materials at thrift stores and this one you got these denim pieces and to all the way to okay, we're gonna go launch. Like what how long of a process is that?
That process, that was so long ago. I think it was about a month or maybe 2 months.
Okay, pretty quick.
From start to finish, and which is actually pretty quick,
Yeah.
but this was during COVID, so I had a little bit more downtime. So just I had so much fun in the studio with
Mhm.
uninterrupted focus. Just that was a really good time.
Definitely sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of like you have this eco friendly, sustainable fashion, is there anything you can do from a design perspective that you can't do with traditional materials that you're doing with like more eco-friendly materials? Is there anything that is there also anything? Yeah, I mean, I think let's go with that one first and then I'll follow up with it.
Sure. Well, the design process is a little bit different because when I take fabric, I'm trying to use all of it instead of
Mhm.
creating more waste. So that
Yeah.
kind of changes the traditional design approach, even the design approach I grew up learning and using. So, for example, I made a shrug for an event that I went to last week. And when I was making the piece, I had leftover fabrics, and I'm like, oh, I do not want to throw this away. So, there's a thing called zero waste design, and
Mhm.
that's basically what it sounds like. No scraps are thrown away after you make a piece. So I had this piece, had some scraps, but I actually stuffed them into the collar of
Mhm.
my shawl that I made, and it just created that volume. So I would say try being a sustainable designer, trying to be eco-friendly, it really presents challenges unique to the project, and it's just a lot of problem solving, which for me really gives me room to be more creative, and it's always pushing me to think outside the box. So I love the challenge. I love being able to
Mhm.
create solutions, and I think that's what it's all about in the approach to the sustainable design world.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot that can be done, I think, in terms of embracing like eco-friendly materials and doing stuff that's different with them because there's new things you can do. And I think that that can even put it at a competitive advantage to a lot of traditional fabrics and materials too. So it's definitely a
Totally,
good
yeah.
direction. Yeah,
hmm
agreed. So when you were a kid, you got really into different ways of making garments, right? I think you got into hand beating and embroidery and quilting. Was it just like this was a passion to just try to find new things, or was it like something you were raised with, like that you were raised to kind of think outside the box and try new things like that?
I would say my parents, I grew up in a Filipino American household. My dad's from the Philippines. My mom is from a small town in Beaumont, Texas. So, they were very frugal growing up. So we always were raised to kind of work with what we've got and make things work. And I think that really raised me when I was younger with my clothing and seeing my mom buying big pieces from the thrift store. And instead of spending a lot of money, we would get it from the thrift store and then she would take it and alter it herself because it was
Hmm.
just financially made more sense. So I think examples like that my parents would do really show me to just make things work and find a way. And I think that's what really
Yeah.
pushed my creativity as a child. And then fast forward to now, I think I just have such an excitement for life. I'm like a huge sewing nerd. Anytime I find out a new technique, whether it's like beading or dyeing fabric, if I see it on the internet or somebody doing it, I'm so intrigued and I want to try it out. So all of it just really excites me. I can geek out over it. So I've tried so many techniques through college and even now I'm always trying new things. For me, it's just really exciting. I love working with my hands and experimenting because that way you're always learning something new at the end of the day. I don't want to ever be stagnant or do the same
Hmm.
thing. I think I should always be pushing my brain to learn something new. So that's kind of where all that comes from.
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to think, and you really need to keep trying new things. It makes life exciting. I definitely agree. So,
Yeah.
do you think that you're because of your fashion background, your ability to design like new, innovative like fashion pieces, do you think that that puts you at a competitive advantage in the Miss Universe competition in Miss USA or Miss Texas USA? Was that something that made you stand out, you think?
I think so because as far as I know, I was the only contestant that was designing and actually hand making her pieces. I'm sure
Mhm.
there was other design contestants out there, but for me, I was making it all myself, like late nights in the studio, Friday nights, Saturday nights, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., making my pieces. And it really gave me talking points
Mhm.
during the competition. For those who don't know, in pageants, we do interviews with
Mhm.
judges, and they're 3 minute long interviews, really short, but we just try to talk to the judges what we bring to the table, what we're doing in our life, anything that stands out. So for me, I always made it a point to say, hey, I'm wearing this piece, I made it. This is the story behind it, and it's eco-friendly and I'm all about using recycled fabrics. That's my platform, and that's what I'm pushing in this society. So I think it really gave me an advantage because people started to know me like that's the designer girl. And I just thought it was great because I was able to spread my message and I was able to tell people what I do and I was growing my brand at the same time. So I had so much fun doing it. So I did it at Miss Texas, I did it at Miss USA, and then to do it at Miss Universe and it's globally televised, that was a dream come true. And people still refer to me as that girl, and I love being able to have that identity.
Yeah, I think it really did set you apart. And like you mentioned, the stories, like when other contestants were being spoken to, like you gave these very clear messages. They were pretty concise too, and it was just like, hey, this is what I'm doing with this piece, and this is why it's important. And that's kind of really what Miss Universe is about, right? Like you mentioned earlier,
Right.
it's this advocacy platform. It's more than just winning a pageant and now you're the one that's Miss Universe for the year. It's you're supporting a cause, and
Mhm.
you definitely did a good job, I think, at doing that and stand. And I think that did help you. I mean, it seems like you acknowledge that it has helped you stand out because there was more. It was more behind you, right? There was more behind you as a person. Yeah.
Right, yes, thank you. And all the contestants, they all have unique stories, but I
Mhm.
felt like for me, I don't know that many girls that have done it before. And like I
Mhm.
said, when we were talking about it to the judges, I would have the proof to back it up. Like I'm wearing a piece and then I would go into the story behind it. And I think you always want to be memorable to the judges or have a
Mhm.
unique story. So I really feel like that helped me in the competition.
Yeah. And when you were competing, right? Were you thinking like did you have like telltale signs like okay, like I'm actually gonna win this, or was it like really an entire like surprise at the end? Like did you think you were gonna win going into it in the beginning?
I would like to say I thought I was going to win because I think every girl
Yeah.
should believe that they are going to win because if you don't believe you're going to win in any competition, I think you're already starting in the
Mhm.
wrong place. But my whole formula was I wanted to go into Miss Universe against all the 80, 85 girls and know that I outworked everybody. I was like, if
Mhm.
I know that I've worked harder than anybody else, it's going to give me that confidence that I need to make it through this competition. It's a 2 week long competition, it's a
Wow.
marathon, but I just wanted to check off as many boxes. So I
Mhm.
was in the gym working out in Houston with no AC, like crazy. I ate the same foods, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for
Oh
two
my.
years. And in my mind, I was like, I don't know what other girl has ate as strict as I have. So for me, that gave me that confidence. Like, I can do this. I deserve this. I would watch podcasts and interviews
Mhm.
by Kobe Bryant, and I just thought he was spectacular and so successful. And I always remember he said, you want to outwork your competition to be the
Mhm.
best. So that was really my angle going in. And I said, I don't know what girl has handmade her pieces. I mean, I was
Mhm.
working on all the details from day one, sunrise to sunset. So I think I kind of came in out of nowhere in the competition. Some girls have a lot of hype, some don't, and I feel like a little bit underground, but when the competition started, I was like, let me prove to people like you either prepare or you're unprepared. And I really
Mhm.
felt so prepared. And that's the confidence I feel like anybody needs going into a competition, whether it's a sport or a contest or anything.
Yeah, I agree. You do need to manifest it and really think that you're going to do it. Like you give yourself no shot if you don't believe, and if by believing you actually give yourself the ability to work towards something like that. So it is important. 100% agree.
Yes. I mean, I would believe it too. I think manifestation and meeting it with hard work was the
Mhm.
formula for success. So I would go to sleep and visualize walking on the runway. We have runway routines. We got to hit our turns at a certain spot. And it's nerve-wracking when so many people are watching, but I would manifest that and think about, okay, now I'm going to look at the judges with this sort of emotion, smile, and then fierce one. So there was just so many things that I prepared for. And I will say my middle name is Nola, and
Mhm.
the Miss Universe competition was in New Orleans in my year that I competed. So I thought it was a sign. I said, New Orleans, my middle name is Nola. I was like, this could be my destiny. So if fingers crossed, I was going into it hoping that was my sign, and I think it was.
Did you think that you had like did you think the lack of certain experience maybe compared to some of these other girls, right? You mentioned only 3 years or so before you really got involved in
Mhm.
pageants. Did you think that was going to hold you back at all? Or you thought, hey, I have this work ethic. I'm going to be really original in the outfits that I wear. I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to manifest it. That's just going to help me get there.
Ooh, I would say the fact that I had I don't know, every girl's formula is different for winning. I think it really worked for me because having I felt like I wasn't too overtrained or the way I would speak still came off naturally. The fact that I did it in 3 years is because I started at age 25 and you age
Mhm.
out to compete at 28. So
Wow.
for me, I felt really late to the game. I felt late to the party going in because I knew girls started at a younger age, but that gave me a sense of urgency to make it happen
Mhm.
really fast. And I think that's why I buckled down and had that tunnel vision. For me, that was my advantage because I said, I have to make it happen now before I age out, and that's all I got. I only have one shot to do this. So for me that was my advantage because I felt like it's go 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 time. I'm a little bit older. I
Mhm.
can't miss this opportunity. Let me just make it happen and cut off all distractions in life to do it.
Yeah, well, that definitely seemed to be a big catalyst to helping you get to where you wanted to go. And now it seems like the competition is opening up to, I think they said married women and women with children already. Do you think it's going to get more just inclusive overall and keep and continue in that, maybe even raise the age? Is that the direction you think it's going still?
Yeah, I would believe that the age will be raised at some point. I
Mhm.
don't know when, but yeah, they just opened up the rules to women that can be married or
Mhm.
they were divorced or also have children, which is something that is never been a rule before. So I think the direction Miss Universe wants to go, we want to continue to open it up to more girls and be more inclusive. Because for me, I never imagined myself as a pageant girl or a girl that would go to Miss Universe. So
Mhm.
and it actually changed my life. I never thought I could do it. So if we can open up these type of opportunities and transformational journeys for other women that never considered seeing themselves at Miss Universe or at a competition, I mean, it's only going to help a woman. So the organization, we just want to be more inclusive. So I think the age, I don't quote me, but I feel like it could happen at some point.
That would be great if it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that like the next steps for you are scaling your fashion brand out, right? You want to have more like more products and release them on a more widespread level. What do you think are like the next steps also for Miss Universe in general, and like where do you think it's going in the next couple of years, and what changes do you think will happen?
Well, for Miss Universe, there's actually a new owner as of this year. So I'm the first Miss Universe under this new owner who is actually the first female owner. So
Mhm.
definitely a new perspective coming in. And she is the first trans woman to own Miss
Mhm.
Universe, and she's from Thailand. So in
Hmm.
the past, it's been a male owner and it's usually an American owner. So having that Thai perspective and having half of the
Mhm.
business now in Thailand, I've been able to visit Thailand a few times as Miss Universe, and it's just a different culture. Pageants there are extremely glamorous. The fans are so invested and they love Miss Universe. It's a lot different here than America. Miss Universe in Thailand is everything. So I think it's really bringing that perspective, that South Asian influence. The
Mhm.
work ethic is different with the Thai team. They love to work sunrise to sunset. I understand it as an Asian American. So the owner has made a lot of changes. She loves the
Mhm.
glamour and she loves, you
Mhm.
know, the high fashion and everything over the top that you think beauty queens do. She's bringing that into the mix a little bit more. And as a trans woman, it's really opening up the organization to be more inclusive. I think we're bringing
Mhm.
even more of the LGBT community to feel seen and heard in this arena because they're such a
Mhm.
big part of Miss Universe already. So I'm very excited and thankful to be a new excuse me, wow, title holder under the new era. So for me, it's very exciting. Change is a little scary at times, but the new owner is really fearless in making these changes, which is really cool to be a part of.
That's great. That's great you feel that way. Well, look, it's been great to have you here. I appreciate you coming on, and I think everyone should definitely take a look at your upcoming releases and check out your clothing company. It's it's pretty interesting what you're doing. It's original, and I keep I hope you keep being advocating for the right causes and keep continuing on that good path. Yeah,
Oh, I
thanks for coming.
appreciate it so much. Thank you. I'm continuing to work on projects. I'm making projects for my appearances as Miss Universe and very excited to continue my brand even after my reign is done. So thank you for having me.
Awesome.